Hi, how are you, sir? Excellent. Thank you for being here. We may be a little lonely. David? Hey, Mr. Chairman. How are you? Good. Good. Didn't get hit by any tornadoes. Well, I didn't, but I was watching. And you had somebody over here, didn't you? Well, actually, I saw people. Oh, yeah. I just promised to hear.
Maybe I should have thought that was an indication.
Spears going to be here on tonight? We'll call the meeting of Financial, Governmental, Organizations and Elections to order. We'll open in a subcommittee. We've got a few members that have informed us they will be a little late. Starting a little earlier date or time today. First thing, I think we'll just start out with Senate Bill 883, and that is me. And Senator Sager, if you would take the chair.
Senator Watson, it's good to have you here today.
Oh, a fine pleasure, sir.
Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Senator Jay Wasson, representing the people of the 20th District, to introduce Senate Bill 883. I will tell you up front, Senator Wallingford had already noticed there might have been a page missing out of fiscal note. This bill's not going anywhere this year. There are some problems, possible problems, that have occurred since, I don't remember, when we passed the major overhaul of this chapter about 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago maybe or more. I wanted to kind of hear what some of those problems were so we might be able to work on them. It's possible that some of them could be fixed internally by the division, if they are problems, and if not, maybe we can look at something next year. But I just kind of want to throw it out there, see what some of the problems that the funeral industry is having. That's what the bill deals with. Some of you may remember, 5 or 6 years ago, we did a complete rewrite of the entire chapter. And to be honest with you, no more problems than I've seen at the time. I'm pretty pleased that we wrote an entire chapter and didn't have more problems than we have. But it also, when you rewrite an entire chapter, you know, there can be some things that you may need to tweak. So I certainly would not deny that. Just a little bit of brief history. You may remember at that time there was a company in Missouri selling pre-need funerals, and they went into solvent, and it cost a lot of money to a lot of people. And I think probably, aside from the people who had bought the pre-need funerals, the people who may have gotten hurt the worst were the funeral home directors. I mean, they've had to stand by these things, and rightfully so. I mean, that's kind of their business, but they've been hit pretty hard, and so we're just trying to, you know, one of the things we did in that language was we started auditing, and that has started over the last year or two, a couple of years really gotten enforced. You know, there may be a problem or two with some of those audits, but that's what we wanted to do at the time. It was the only way that we could assure the public through a major auditing of these things that they were safe. And so, you know, that has led to maybe some of the little problems that we have here. But there are people, I think, who wish to testify as to some of the problems that we've had. Unless you all have some questions, I'll kind of let them come up and allude to what their problems are and see if, what they are, and if it's something we need to work on for next year, I'd be glad to do that.
You know, Senator,
this year, I'm just kind of a fact finder.
Yeah, you know, Senator, I proposed bills the same question.
Okay.
And it's amazing when you think that there's not too many problems.
Actually, you did a bill last year, Senator, as I recall, that I think did help some of the problems. You know, one of the simplest and easiest ways to do this is to buy maybe not a CD, but a money market or whatever you want to call it in a bank. And you did a bill that kind of allowed the person who's buying the pre-need and the funeral home to have a joint deal there. That's a very simple way to do this, one that I think the simpler the better in my mind at times. So yes, we have tweaked it some already. There may be other tweaks we need to do, but we'll maybe hear today what those are.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none, do you have some witnesses?
I believe we do. I don't know whether Sam
Will
or...
somebody in favor of Senate Bill 883?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Sam Licklider for the Missouri Funeral Directors and Embalmers Association. I was saddened to hear that Senator Watson doesn't believe the bill's going anyplace. We've got 3 weeks. Seriously. There are a lot of moving parts in this bill. One of the things, and there is a natural tension between the regulator and those who are regulated. One of the things that we suggested that has been left out, and I think appropriate because it needs some more work, is the situation where the only consideration is beneficiary change or assignment on an insurance policy that's currently in existence. They are currently charged a $36 fee and do a complete pre-need. $36 fee is essentially an audit fee, given the fact that the person who assigned the insurance policy can tomorrow or later that day go out on the internet, change that assignment. There's no real way you can track this. And I think the appropriate thing to do is this fall, perhaps, when we have a little more time, take a look at some of these, sit down and try to make this a little better. There are some additional problems. I'm not going to go into that. You've got a lot of bills to cover, and as he said, it ain't going into place.
Well,
and I appreciate Senator Sater, your passage of that bill last year. It was very helpful.
thank you. Well, thanks very much. Questions for the witness today? Seeing none, thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
You sure I've got all witnesses one time? Any more witnesses in favor of Senate Bill 883? Seeing none, anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 883? Seeing none, anyone for informational purposes? Seeing none, that concludes the...
That was real quick, and I appreciate, the only thing I would say, Senator, we've made that the problem he mentioned could be a problem. There were also problems with, once we had done an audit, we sent out, much the way a bank would send out, an auditor of a bank would send out a statement saying, is this your account and how much you have? There was some of that may have caused some hardship. Some people didn't, maybe the family had bought a pre-need contract and the person they bought it for didn't know about it. Caused some consternation. We may need to look at that, but I'm hoping some of that can be done internally. So I thank you for the hearing, sir.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, since we have one, I think we'll have roll call on the forum.
Senators Lawson,
Here.
Cunningham, Dixon, Kraus,
Here.
Pierce,
I'm here.
Sater,
Here.
Wallingford,
Here.
Kevany, Lamona, Sifton.
Here. Okay, we have established a quorum. We are in the official hearing. And now, Senator Pierce, I believe we can go to Senate Bill 885. That, it's just how good looking he was today, Senator. So sharp dressed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. It's my privilege to present for your consideration Senate Bill 885. And I do have a couple of witnesses that will be coming forward. Senate Bill 885 deals with speech language pathologists and audiologists. Obviously, speech pathologists deal with helping folks pronounce words. It could be for young people, it could be those that are stroke victims. Audiologists deal with hearing. For the most part, currently a speech language pathologist assistant must work on the direction of a speech path licensed by the Board of Registration. What this act does, it says that an assistant may also work on the direction of a speech pathologist who's employed by either the state of Missouri or through the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for at least 1 year. So it gives a little bit more flexibility when it comes to becoming licensed for an assistant speech pathologist. Be glad to answer any questions, or like I said, I do have a couple of witnesses that are experts in this.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Senator.
I assume that the assistants are probably doing this now, and this is just kind of codifying it along.
I think what it's done is to give more options and things like that, and so we'll hear from those of them.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for the sponsor? Okay, call your first witness.
Thank you very much. Diane Golden is from the Advisory Commission.
Please, all witnesses, fill out a witness form, if you will, today.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Golden, and I do have a degree in speech language pathology. I have another degree in audiology, and I have another degree in special education administration. I try to diversify my academic work. serve on the licensure board, the Speech Language Pathology Audiology Commission, which is the oversight licensure board for speech language pathologists and audiologists. And I would be delighted to answer any questions about the nuts and bolts of the changes in the bill, but what I really wanted to tell you was that we tried to do this the right way in terms of proposing a statute change. The chair of the Speech Language Pathology Audiology Commission convened a work group almost 3 years ago that included all 8 of the Speech Language Pathology University training programs, all of the major stakeholders, Missouri Speech Language Hearing Association, and the president's going to testify right after me, Missouri Council of Administrators on Special Education, Missouri School Boards Association, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and we worked for 9 to 12 months to come to agreement and put together these changes. We held some hearings, solicited input, so I think I can really say it's consensus and there's no controversy. Everybody's on board with what we're proposing. So I'm hoping that's the case here. We did this in the House and there was no opposition. So as Senator Pierce said, one of the changes is to update the requirement for who can supervise a speech language pathology assistant. Right now we have in the schools a number of people who are my age and older, thank you very much, who are working under a DESE-issued credential instead of license. Eventually all of us old folks will be gone and everybody will have a license, but until then we needed to change the statute so that those people could also supervise assistants. Schools are using them. They're an excellent way to deliver quality services to kids in rural areas where it's very difficult to recruit speech language pathologists who are fully credentialed anyway. So that was simply a way of getting better services to all parts of the state. There are a few other cleanups in there about we have a little difficult time getting audiologists for the licensure board because there's only about 250 of us statewide. So it allows people to come back on the licensure board after they have served and been off a couple of years. So it's basically those kinds of changes, and I'd be delighted to answer any questions if anybody wants to walk into the
Any
details.
questions for the witness? Senator Sater, you have a question in mind, a look on your face.
So as my previous question, are the assistants doing this now?
Yes, that's actually an interesting question. Yes, one of the reasons we are trying to promote the use of speech language pathology assistants in the schools is because the Department of Education about 20 years ago decided to try to help address the shortage. They would allow the use of speech implementers, which are basically teachers with any teaching degree who are functioning as a speech language pathology assistant. And part of the idea here was to, if we can get the statute changed and allow people who are Department of Education certified SLPs supervise real SLPs who have a bachelor's degree in speech language pathology, those services will be greatly improved. So that's the, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess I'm trying to get to the heart of it. So you've got these people working as assistants, and apparently in the old language, they have been provisional licensed, and you're not going to do that anymore, correct?
Correct. We are also eliminating the provisional license, and that's a quirk of our licensure law, basically. Most licensure laws that have a provisional or a temporary are for people who are like missing a course or haven't been able to sit for the exam or something like that. Our folks graduated fully with their degree and passed the national exam and still were given a provisional license rather than a real license, which is odd to begin with. And the problems that created were twofold. One, those people can't bill insurance, they can't bill Medicaid, they can't bill Medicare, because none of those third-party payers recognize anything but a full license. So these people were really stuck trying to get a job where someone was willing to pay them when the hospital couldn't bill for reimbursement. So we're trying to put all of our folks where other people are. When they graduate with their degree and they have hundreds, literally 400 some odd hours of clinical practice as part of their degree program. So they don't need more practical hours to be fully qualified. So By eliminating that, and again, I'll tell you, there really isn't any opposition to that. Even the national professional organization is fine with eliminating that. They were actually the ones very concerned about Medicaid and insurance billing.
So do you think this will put more licensed audiologists out there?
More, maybe not, but when they graduate, they will be able to work immediately.
And you don't see it as an expansion of scope?
No, not at all. Scope doesn't change at all, no.
So you look at this truly as a cleanup?
It's a little more substantive than just technical, but yes, I really think it's non-controversial, and at least everybody who's in the field. And I will tell you the Department of Education is fine with it. In fact, they have been realigning their rules to kind of fit with this, and they would be delighted to eliminate the provisional, because that means they can then grant their credential without restriction. So,
Senator, is there a companion bill in the House for this?
Yes.
yes. House Bill 1900.
Where's it at?
It was just heard last week.
Okay. Any questions for the witness? All right, thank you very much. Anyone else to testify in favor of Senate Bill 885?
Yes, we have Jane Webb, who's the current president of the Missouri Speech Language Hearing Association.
And this doesn't have anything to do with music therapy, right?
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I am Jane Webb. I am a practicing speech language pathologist for the past 39 years. I work in the public schools, the universities, and the medical sites. In other words, about every facility that we service with our professional. Today, I am actually here as the president of the Missouri Speech Language Hearing Association. Our association is made up of over 1,300 speech language pathologists and audiologists. I am here as their spokesperson to support House Bill 885. It is very important to address the needs that these changes will make for our consumers who's having difficulty with communication.
Okay. Any questions from the witness? Thank you very much. Anyone else to testify in favor of Senate Bill 885? In favor? Senator Pierce is fine. Piece of legislation. Okay, seeing none. Anyone to testify against Senate Bill 885? Seeing none. Anyone to testify for informational purposes only on Senate Bill 885? And it has nothing to do with music therapy.
No.
Why did I somehow originally think it had something to do with music therapy? Did you file a bill on music therapy?
No.
Okay.
Maybe last year I did, but no.
Never mind. I guess I want somebody to sing to me. That closes the bill, the hearing on Senate Bill 885. And now we will have a House Bill 1174, Representative Paul Kirkman. Come forth, please. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Paul Kirkman from District 109. And before you is House Bill 1174 related to taxation. There's three parts of this bill. I'll just briefly mention the two parts that we added in the House. And I know we have some witnesses that can speak specifically to those. One part is relates to audits being done by the Department of Revenue. If a discrepancy was discovered after the statute of limitations, it still allows for one of our constituents to get their money back. The other one relates to withholding taxes. Right now, if it's $20 or less and you have to file an annual report, this language would change it to $100 or less. But then the other part of the bill that was brought forward in committee relates to making room in our statutes for an emerging enterprise dealing with safeguarding certain precious metals and commodities and their transactions. This is an emerging enterprise, specifically out of Utah and other states are right now competing for the business of one particular entrepreneur. Right now, speaking as somebody who has earned a Series 7 investment license and having been an investment representative myself, I can tell you that with the fantastic numbers that we're seeing in the markets right now, with those great results also comes a substantial, incredible fear of a loss of returns like we experienced in 2008. And because of that, a lot of times people want to move their money into commodities or move their money into a property type of investment, because in many cases, that's the only way to hedge against inflation. And so, speaking to that specific demand in the market, this bill would be in our statutes for one of these enterprises to be able to exist with oversight or to protect our investors in our state. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the sponsor? Sir, go ahead.
Yes, Representative, on page 3, we talk about the reduction for capital gains. It's at the very bottom, subsection 6, the last two sentences. The reduction of capital gains income include Missouri adjusted gross income to exchange of gold or silver. Why do we exclude capital gains from other forms of income, like
Well, we do.
stocks, for instance?
We do, Senator. For example, any money that you might put into a money market account, a checking account, or a savings account, the interest that you are able to get off those specific accounts is investment income. And we exclude capital gains off of that. We also exclude